Hey, welcome everybody. Let's talk real estate. Your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current commercial real estate market here in Southern California. As we take a no BS look at both sides of the issues driving this market today to find the best solutions going forward. With our man right in the middle, it's Barry Saywitz. Hey, Barry.
Okay, are we here? Good morning, Paul.
There we are.
I'm back. I was there, I was gone, and now I'm back. This is Barry Saywitz. We are here. It is Tuesday. We had a little technical difficulty, but we are back on, we are here to talk some real estate, but we're going to have a special edition of today's show. And so before we get going, I do want to do a shout out to all the servicemen and women that are out there that are fighting for democracy and freedom and the right thing to do on behalf of not only everyone here in the United States, but everyone around the world. So we want you to stay safe, and we want you to be victorious, and we want you to be swift. So with all of that said, today's show, we are going to talk about, we are here, it is March of 2026, and the United States is, for lack of a better word, at war. Along with Israel, with Iran. And whether it's tactical, whether it's boots on the ground, whether it winds up being something more or longer, it is for the purpose of creating freedom and getting rid of the bad guys, for lack of a better terminology. And so for me, I hope it goes as swiftly as possible. But we thought we'd do a show here and talk about what impact what's going on with the military operation, the war, whatever you want to call it, and how that affects the economy, and then ultimately how that trickles back to the real estate markets and sort of tie it in. And so Paul has agreed to join me in a little debate/discussion, and I don't think...
We should have played the old song by War. What is it good for? But
that's it.
We can't play this. Right?
I don't know that it's going to be good for anything economically, but at the end of the day, if it is resolved in a positive fashion, then everyone should be better off. In the meantime, you've got some bumpy roads, and so I guess I want to dive in and talk about, what impacts we've seen so far, what potentially we could see moving forward, and then how that trickles back down. And so, here we are in Orange County, California, somewhat of a bubble, certainly removed from what's going on in the Middle East, but not without impact and not without things that directly affect everyone that's going on.
We were all up in arms when the last administration gas bumped up around $6 a gallon. People were screaming. I was screaming. All of a sudden, I went to the gas pump yesterday, $6 a gallon.
Yeah, $6.04 right across the street. And then in Los Angeles, $6.10 at the place I drove past. And so I saw on the news, they were talking about how people in New Jersey were outraged that it might hit $4. But in California...
Because we have all these add-ons here for...
Yeah, it's just not the case. And so you can't tell me that at $5.50 or $6 a gallon of gas that everybody doesn't feel it.
Yeah.
And then, let's talk about that as a byproduct, because what's going on is that the tankers can't get out of the Strait of Hormuz, which is where all of the oil comes. And then somebody said to me yesterday, we were talking
Insurance carriers are canceling the ability to insure that we're not going to take a risk on it. You want to try it, go for it, but we're not going to cover your tanker if it gets hit.
Yeah, but the president said, look, we'll cover you, but it's not enough to give them a sense of security, because if one ship goes down, you've lost everything, and then if one ship gets hit, then no one else will attempt to make the run. And so but somebody said to me yesterday, we were talking about it in the kitchen at the office, which is where all the good
stuff happens anyway,
right? They said, but we don't even get our oil from there. It's a very small percentage. So why does that make the gas here go up?
And we have never been producing more oil than we have in the last few years.
And the president says, look, our reserves are fine. The problem is that people panic and gas stations panic. And then if gas stations can't get the reserve, or they're afraid that there's only a finite amount, then they run the table on it, which is what's going on. And you've seen it go up, 50 cents, 75 cents, almost $1 a gallon.
Dramatic. In a very short period of time.
In a very short period of time. I mean, I'd like to be the guy who changes the numbers on the sign at the gas station. He's been busy, right? He keeps running out there with a new number.
And then, as even the president pointed out before this all occurred, if gas goes up, it affects everything because you've got your overall transportation costs.
Right. So whether it's trucking, and so then that impacts shipping costs, which is anything that you were to buy as a consumer that winds up getting shipped, or you have trucking companies that are trying to load up truck runs so that it's more efficient, and then you have delays. And so it trickles all the way down, and then ultimately, obviously, to the consumer who's going to the gas pump who has to fill up their...
So if you're a landlord, and you are, do you just watch and wait? And then at what point do you say, hey, this is affecting my business, I got to pass this along, or anybody in business?
Yeah, well, as a landlord, you can't really pass it along. I mean, you have to just deal with it, right? And as a business owner, if you have expenses where you have staff that is going around and they have expense accounts and they have to drive from one place to the next, and they're charging at $6 versus they were charging at $4. I mean, that's just a cost of doing business. I don't think we've started to see anybody pass stuff along. I will tell you, like trash companies, they charge a gas surcharge to go from one property to the next, because they're passing it along, right? And so you're going to start to see more of those kinds of things, whether that's the pool guy or the landscaper who has to drive from one property to the next. You don't think that he's going to come back and raise his rates, because then the simple answer is, hey, not my fault. Gas is up, and I got to pay. I
had a rental house out in the desert. Somebody was going to go out and fix something. Called me up and said, how about if I do it in a couple of days? I said, why a couple of days? I'm going to be in that area anyway. I don't want to make a special trip. Too expensive.
Yeah. Or people will start charging trip charges.
Yeah.
Or they will increase their trip charge. So a simple guy who would go to fix an appliance who would normally charge $85 for a trip charge, he's going to charge $100. So all of these things trickle down, from an operational standpoint. But just look at an average company who is doing business and pick an industry of any type, and you're going to feel it at the pump. Now, what happened was the president came out yesterday and said, hey, I think we're very close to winning. And then all of a sudden the price of oil dropped. Per barrel, the stock market went from $1,000 down on the Dow to up 150.
But isn't that crazy? One word affects it. I mean, it's all perception.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't think that the president is the most powerful man in the world, he is. With one tweet, he swung the entire Dow 1,200 points, and so. But the question really becomes, what happens for real at the end of the day? Are we going to send people in with boots on the ground to finish the job once they're assured that the missiles and the launchers are taken care of? Right. Do they need to do that? Right, and so you only know what you see on the internet,
and it goes back to I'm not as supportive as others might be of this whole thing, but I'm confused as to what the purpose of the mission was. I mean, Iran was already kind of on its back after the last series of attacks, or 10 or 12-day run of attacks. They blew up everything. And it seemed like they were kind of down and out. But then the people rose up for a moment, and it seemed like maybe this is a war of opportunity. Maybe there's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to overthrow this regime. That doesn't seem like it's happening, at least for now. The people aren't back in the streets.
Yeah, but I would beg to differ that you have to get rid of the bad guys, because it's a threat to everybody, and whether it's you or your children or your grandchildren, enough is enough. And it was at the boiling point where there was an opportunity for them to really do significant damage if they wanted to. My concern is different. My concern is that the politics that you don't hear about or know about, which is there's rumors that Russia is giving Iran weapons or money,
intelligence,
as sort of payback to the whole Ukraine situation.
Right.
And then you have China who's saying, hey, we do get a lot of our oil and we are dependent upon it and we need it, so we have to figure out a solution. And then if we can't get it, we're going to raise the prices, which ultimately comes back to the consumers here in the United States and around the world.
And I guess what confusing, when we've done other sorts of efforts like this at regime change or whatever it is, whether it's Democratic or Republican, usually there was a clear case built out. We went for the public, went for Congress, went for the United Nations. Here, this president doesn't operate that way. It just takes action. And the goal seems to be all over the place. Was it regime change? Was it just knocking them further down? Was it wiping out the missiles that we thought were wiped out before? I don't know. So how do you know when to declare victory?
Isn't it, I'm wiping out the threat of everything, right? And so whether you agree with it or not, you're in it, right? And
you're
so
in it
now. What is frustrating to me to watch is when people who are not supportive of the president or the move or what's going on try to undermine it, right? Because whatever side of the aisle you're on from a political standpoint, I understand midterms are coming up and people are looking to, score points or whatever. Right. But I mean, come on, like, aren't we all Americans at the end of the day? And don't you want to just beat the bad guys badly and then move on, right? And then if you do that, the economy will boom, it will jump back up, and things can get back to somewhat normal. Because now you have inflation ticked up. Now there's rumors of stagflation. Then you have this issue of if the oil prices stay high, it trickles down to everything else. And so the question is, how long will it drag on? And then the longer it drags on, I don't think anybody is naive to say that it just can't be good for the global economy and that it'll affect you at the end.
Even within the president's own base, though, there's significant pushback. The Tucker Carlsons of the world say, wait a minute, this isn't what we signed up for. This is what you said you wouldn't do. And now we're doing it. So I agree we're in it. The question is how long and what impact do you think it'll have on the economy?
And I say now that you're in it, you need to win decisively because there may be another guy down the road. And so unlike Russia, who could not win, right? And part of the reason
4 or 5 years in, they're still in a stag.
Sure, but part of the reason they couldn't win is because we keep funding Ukraine to be able to fight, and without us, they would have lost quickly. And so,
and on the flip side, I don't think the Russians. Everybody overestimated the power of the Russians and the power of the military. They apparently weren't as all-powerful as we thought they were, and made some
but if the
decisions.
issue is that we would like to think that we are all-powerful, then do it. Right, and I say let our people go in there and take care of business, and there are no two better armies than the Israeli army and the United States army.
So should we? It seems like the only way to really do it, to remove all the guys, isn't through air power but through ground power, to go in there.
Except nobody wants to put lives at risk because the backlash from a political standpoint would be huge, and and you don't want to send troops in and put them in harm's way until you're sure you got rid of all the rockets. The concern I've got is that you just don't know what's hidden underground or in a bunker, and a guy comes out and wheels something out, and he doesn't have the right trajectory, and so he's just slinging it. And then now my other concern really for here in the United States is exactly what happened yesterday, where you have these sleeper cells, or you have a radical 18-year-old kid.
I thought
you have an 18-year-old kid who throws some kind of Molotov cocktail crazy bomb he concocted in his basement. And then had it gone off, would have killed hundreds of people. And so
I'm with you, because I always thought the real fear of the Iranian regime or any of these regimes wasn't their missiles. We can take those out. It's a process and a problem, but it's the individuals, suicide bombers that are dedicated to the cause.
It's lack of a value for human life and belief that if I die for a cause, then I'm better. And
how do you stop that idea? You can't frighten people away from that because they're willing to die. They want to die.
Yeah. So and how will you protect yourself? And then now you combine that with TSA is not funded, and so you have
the worst time of all that we should be.
So then, look again. You want to point the finger? Give them the money that they need to do to keep everybody safe. It's almost like if you don't give them the money, you're wishing something bad happens, so you can say, "I told you so."
Well,
which would be a horrible thing.
It seems like if something bad happens, we're all holding our breath. Another 9/11, another plane goes down, another terrorist attack, something like that. That's what people expect. I expect, or fear. Then that almost guarantees then a cry for revenge. Afghanistan all over again. Let's go get the dirty bastards. And
also, it will be a cry for finger pointing to say, see what you got us into. Look, this is your fault. Whoever you want to point the finger at. You could point the finger at the president and say you got us into it. You could point the finger at the Democrats who wouldn't fund TSA. And all you're going to have is a bunch of finger pointing, which won't change the outcome of the fact that there was a potential catastrophic event.
I'm surprised how resilient the American economy has been through other chaotic periods in the last few years. We've talked about a lot on this show. what's the new normal? The new normal seems to be nothing's normal. It's always in flux. It's always up or down. And so businesses have historically liked to make long-range plans. The market's in an up or a market's down. The economy's going good, the economy's tanking. So whatever it is, they make adjustments to it. And we seem to be constantly on the fly making new adjustments.
Because you have a tweet or you have an update and it's significant. But I guess let's shift gears. Instead of talking about the war, because I'm no expert on war, I want to talk about how it trickles back down. Because
clearly, that's the point of this whole thing. That's what everybody really wants to know.
Well, look, the stock market's all over the board. So if you start watching your stock portfolio or your retirement fund, don't, because
you're going to get dizzy.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, what happened to the idea that interest rates were going to come down? And interest rates would come down provided that the job market and the economy and inflation were stable. Right. And that inflation was in a downward trend, jobs were, upward trend, and that there was, growth in the economy. Well, you've stifled it, right? And you don't hear anybody talking about any of that. And so I talked to a banker yesterday. They said, well, we're still of the belief that, the interest rates will come down 2 more times between now and the end of the year.
Really? Okay.
But every day that goes by, every month that goes by, where there's no indication that that's the case, crunches that window between now and the end of the year.
Because the jobs report wasn't positive. It was
and
down,
inflation wasn't positive.
Right.
And all of that was by recent, right? Not the
Very
first
recent.
quarter, just by a few weeks. So, the premise that rates would come down, what does that then mean for lending? What does that then mean for real estate transactions in general, whether it's home sales or whether it's commercial sales, and also leasing? As a business owner, are you interested in hiring a bunch of people and growing your business when times are tumultuous and you just don't know? So what do? You put a pause. Right?
Are you same thing? Are you going to make that purchase for the new property? And
yes. So do I buy a house when the promise that rates are coming down are not coming down?
Right.
If I'm an agent or a broker on the seller side, and the transaction volume gets stifled, right? Because just people put the brakes on it, right? And they go, hey, I hear you. I'm just going to wait and see, right? I don't know. And so then what happens is, you have the seller who goes, I need to sell, I really want to sell, and then they drop the price, right? And then people's perception is the market is dropping,
right?
So I wait some more because I figure, hey, this war's not over, right? Maybe prices will come down. Right. Maybe it was a good thing for me to wait. And then in addition, the premise that if rates come down, the deal will get better, or if rates come down and I'm a seller, I will get my price easier because a guy who is buying it or a gal who's buying it would get a better interest rate, and therefore their payment, whether it's a home or a property, a commercial property, would be less. And then the premise of that is out the window. So I say, look, if you're going to buy a property today and you go get a mortgage, the rate's the rate, right? It's not coming down tomorrow. It's not coming down in the next 30 days. So you got what you got. And so you have to make decisions based on what you know. And if it's a tumultuous time or you're not sure, you just wait, right? And so what does that do for transaction volume? Stifles it,
I would think.
And then what does that do for the market in general? It softens it. Now, does that mean the bottom's falling out? No. What it means is, stuff's not getting done, right? And so if stuff's not getting done, there's a whole impact to not only the real estate side of things, but then everybody that's associated with it, whether it's construction, right? And then so then the issue is you have construction that slows down because there's less jobs. So we have people that are coming to us going, hey, do you have work?
Round and
right?
round and round,
People who I couldn't get on the phone before are calling going, hey, I'm available, right? What do you got for me? But when you go to price stuff, the cost is up. Why? Because your cost of goods is up, whether it's tariffs or whether it's transportation costs.
Can I ask a tough question? And maybe this is an unfair question, but once, and I'm not trying to say people take advantage of things and gouge them, maybe some do, but once prices go up, oil, the cost of labor, the cost of goods, does it ever come back down? It always seems to once they set a new standard, then we all sort of live to adjust that. I don't see it often come back down again.
Yeah, or it doesn't come all the way back down to where it was, right? And so you just look at take home prices, for example, and pick a market. If you rewind and you look at pre-COVID prices, and then you look at the run-up during COVID because nobody was building anything and people wanted to get bigger houses and whatever. So over that 3 or 4 year period, prices went up dramatically. And then after COVID, immediately it boomed again in terms of the market because people got back into it. And then now all of a sudden it's dropped back down, but it didn't drop back down to pre-COVID levels.
No.
And so the same thing I think applies with construction stuff. There's you can go to bid and you can be competitive and you can make people try and sharpen their pencil. But at the same time, you have everybody sort of raising the bar.
So let me ask you another question. I was fascinated by your guest last week. If you didn't go look up the one with Michael, is it Rademacher? Is that how he says his name? Here's a quiet little guy. Honestly, I never heard of him. And he turns out to be one of the more influential, bigger players, certainly in the Inland Empire, and now even in Orange County. He said he's bought some of the biggest buildings and transactions in the last year or something. This is a guy buying office buildings when everybody's trying to sell them and unload them here.
He's one of the few, right? And so you have more people selling than you do guys out in the market like him buying, which is why he's making good deals. And there's other people that are looking to just get out. So now the other thing is
the perceived panic. The office market is dead. I better get out of it while I can.
Well, and the same holds true. I think the theme for the real estate market is no different, which is that the transactions that are getting done with sellers who need to sell for whatever reason it is.
Yeah.
Right? You name whatever the reason
is. A divorce, a death in the family, something like that.
I got investors. They want out. I know I can't get any better than where I'm at today. Whatever the case is, those deals get done because it gets priced properly. And everybody that I talk to that's a broker or an agent says, if it's priced properly, it sells. The problem is you have a seller that has yesterday's number in their mind,
right, or
a number in their mind, or, hey, that guy's house sold down the street from me for X. Mine's nicer than his. I should be at X plus. And then you're like, hey, the market's not there. But the agent or the broker says, I want the listing, so I'll
tell you whatever you want to hear.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, what fascinated me was the contrarian idea. As he said, if everybody's selling, it's a good time to buy. So here we are in a perceived, perhaps a panic right now. It's a short-term panic. If it goes on, people get more panicky. Does that lead to overreaction and then opportunities? I hate to say this, like he's seeing. He's saying he's buying these office buildings for the cost of the dirt almost.
Sure, but you're talking about opportunities. I mean, the average person doesn't have significant cash resources to be able to pull the trigger on that. And so the other person who is the average guy out there might say, hey, I need a loan. And now when I go get a loan, I'm still getting a loan with a high 5s or a 6 in it.
Right.
And so I'm still stuck with that, right? And that's not changing in the short run. So what dynamic is going to change? If the war drags on, what will happen, in my fear, is nothing. People will put the pause on, right? People will go, hey, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. Right?
So I'll do nothing. Street, easier to do nothing than something.
Wall Street prices based on what's going to happen tomorrow, not today. And so if I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, as a business owner, would I sign a long-term lease when I'm just not sure? Right? Would I go make that extra risk or upgrade that software or hire that new person? Or do I just pause it? And then if you think that the war is going to be over in the next few weeks, don't you just pause it for the next few weeks? It's not that big of a deal. I'll just sit tight, right? And so I think what you have going on is a lot of people pausing.
Yeah.
And if it's over in the next 2 or 4 weeks, great, then I can get back to doing what I'm doing and be able to say that. The other issue, as you mentioned, is, if there's not a regime change, right? I mean, I guess I get it, but the Ayatollah's son, who was named as the leader, right? They killed his father, they killed his mother,
and
they killed his wife and his son.
And this is the guy that's going to make a deal with us here? Well, I don't think so.
Well, there's no deal. He's already said that, right? But you have two paths of fight or flight from as far as I'm concerned. You have the Gaddafi one, which is the flight, which is, okay, I'm going to save myself and I'm going to go underground and disappear, and I promise I'm done now, right? And please don't kill me. You've killed my entire family. Or you go, I got nothing to lose. My entire family's gone. Screw you. I'm just going to go fight until the death. And so my fear is that's what you have going on here. And I think that he's got to be number one on everybody's list to take care of, if you will, because he probably was on the list in the first place and they just didn't get to him.
He wasn't there, apparently.
Right. And so now you probably got a whole new list. If you got rid of 80% of the decision makers at the top level, you've got to go after the other 20% because you cannot afford to have somebody else rise up again, or you've not accomplished anything.
So let's say you're right, and we should just finish the job and whatever it takes, boots or continued gutting out or whatever. If the economy, though, continues to spiral, if prices continue to rise, isn't there an overwhelming pressure on the president to stop, even if he thinks he should continue?
Yes, but I guess the issue is it's kind of like going to the fair and trying to get that big stuffed animal for your kid. I've already spent $20 on a $10 stuffed animal. I have to go get that stuffed animal, and I have to finish the job. How could you stop in the middle? If you stopped in the middle, it would acknowledge that you've, I don't want to say failed, but you didn't succeed.
Didn't succeed.
And then secondly, you've opened the door for everybody else to do it. And then thirdly, look at the message that you've sent to the rest of the world. If the message that he's looking to send is that we are the most powerful nation and the most powerful military in the world, then go show it. And I say, go do it, right? Do it, just do it quick. And I say, for the naysayers out there, you're in it. Just get on board. And then the issue is, let's finish it up, and then we can get back to the business of trying to fix the economy.
Would you agree with, I'll give you one last thing here that seems to be, I think, the underpinning of all this. Is this a short-term thing, a couple weeks, and we're going to pound them, and we're going to change them, we're going to beat them, we're going to get them? Or have we kicked over a hornet's nest, and it's going to take a lot longer to put them back in the hive?
I have no crystal ball on that. You have to leave that to the guys that are in the know. But I think the concern is that even if you beat the regime, even if you beat all of the weapons out of them, even if you destroy all of their capacity, you're going to have these sleeper cell people, and you still have jihadists all over the world.
All over.
Right here in your backyard and everywhere else that still may want to do bad things and might just be rogue people on their own. That's what they were trying to figure out with this guy in New York. Did the kid do it on his own? Was the whole thing planned out? Was it spurred by some secret underground movement?
A lone wolf just trying to take advantage and get his own moment of glory here. Right?
So, look, back to the real estate side of things. I hate uncertainty. Forget about war for a second. If you thought that the market was going up, you would act accordingly.
Right.
If you thought the market was coming down, you would act in that capacity.
Exactly.
If you just had no idea, deals don't get done. Right. And so I think that's
the danger.
Where my biggest fear is that it just slows it. And then when it slows it, people, buyers and sellers, just both take a pause. I'm not going to take a haircut unless I absolutely have to and I'm pinched. So maybe I just won't sell it, or I'll keep it, or I'll take it off the market, or I'll just hold to my number. And so I think on that we'd all agree. I think there's going to be a general, people are going to hold their breath and say, let's see what happens. In the meantime, they're going to do nothing. Right. And then, the easiest thing is to do nothing. But then you also have to turn it and go, okay, what about the individual consumer? What about the average person out there? How is this going to affect them at the end of the day? Maybe I don't have a stock portfolio to watch, and maybe I only see the war on TV and it's not in my backyard, and I'm not worried about it. Right. You're going to see it at the pump. You're going to see it at just continued grocery store, fast food store, restaurant, anywhere where there's transportation and supplies that are going to be impacted by increased pricing. And so, again, I have no crystal ball, but my advice is be careful with your money, right? Watch your finances, because you don't know what will happen. And the knee-jerk might be that a company, depending upon what industry you're in, might go the other way and start doing layoffs. Right, and overreact, so, or cut hours, and just so have the knee jerk of, I'm just going to cut cost. Right? I mean, we are looking at ways of cutting cost, and it's a question of, am I doing it efficiently, or am I just going to really just knee jerk it and then go, look, I can come back and fight another day. If the economy's in a pause, I guess I can just regroup in a couple of months. And yet, clearly, there are those that say, forget about war, just any downturn in the economy, any difficult times. There are people like your friend Rademacher who see this because they have the means and the opportunity. Yeah, but that's a small percentage. I mean, I think there's more people that are hurting than there are that are profiting from a struggling economy. Right. And we talk to people every day that are still struggling to pay their bills. And then you have, if rent is a good portion of your monthly expense, then if your rent goes up because your landlord's expenses went up, I mean, rents are not on the rise. Mm-hmm. But expenses are on the rise, and so you have to expect that landlords are looking to try and either recoup or increase rent where they can. And then, we have people say, oh, if you raise my rent $1, I'm going to move. And I go, well, it's going to cost you more to move than, the couple of bucks that I was raising it. I'm not taking you through the roof. And then my costs are up 20%. I'm not raising your rent 20%, right? And then cost of living is up 3.5%. So even if you just had a moderate increase to try and offset some of your expenses, nobody likes it, right? So
nobody likes it.
I don't like it.
You're on the front line. You're dealing with the public. And
then that's the balancing act, right? And so then what do you got to do? You got to go try and either to make ends meet. I got to get another job, or I've got to bunk up with other family members, or I've got to really go try and look for a much cheaper place at the end of the day,
right?
Or struggle even further. And so none of these are good things, because as a landlord, if your tenants are struggling, it's not good for you. As a landlord, if your expenses are going up, it's also not good for you. So if you're getting hit from both sides of it, you're stuck in the middle, right? And I think that's going to cause some people to have some
maybe we should play that song by Steelers, Wheels from the 70s, Stuck in the Middle Again.
Stuck in the middle again. There are days that I definitely feel like that guy, right? And so you're just getting pulled in both directions. I think, the common thread is I feel like we're all Americans at the end of the day, and you got to be supportive of what's best for America at the end of the day. And I think people have different versions of what that is, and that's okay. Right? But what you're in it. Let's get through it. Let's get to the other side, and then try and see some positive. Now, I do think that if the war is over and there is some finality to it, whatever that means. I mean, there may not be finality for years, but the finality of the fighting, the finality of the insecurity of the oil, the finality of the threat that a bomb could get released tomorrow against whomever. If those things go away, I think then you'll see the stock market jump back up. I think you'll see people get off the fence and go, okay, I can go back to whatever it is that I was planning on doing. And then I think you'll see a bump in the economy. I think that's what, the
well, let's hope from your lips to God's ears. I hope that's where we're headed here.
Yeah, and so, look, like nothing else, I stay tuned, right?
Stay tuned. Only good news is good news for us, because you got to stay tuned, because it's a moving target. We don't even know. Nobody seems to know. Is it long? Is it short? What's the long-term effect? Is it good? Is it bad? Whatever. We're in the middle of it right now, and we can't see what's coming next.
Yeah, and I also feel like, look, you do have elections coming up.
On top of this.
It's elections for in California here for governor and for attorney general and for other important posts. And so while you cannot control what's going on in the Middle East from here in your local community or in the state legislature, you can control what's happening to your constituents.
Yes.
And so what I'm not hearing enough of is the candidates talking about how they're going to fix stuff. I mean, you hear Tom Steyer talk about, hey, I'm
on his ads every day, yeah,
right. I mean, I'm going to build 1 million houses, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I don't hear the how. I just hear this is what I'm going to do, right? And so I'd like to hear some how of what you're going to do.
Well, I'm hoping we can get some of these people on your show. We've had them on some of our other shows here, because I've never seen an election like this in California where there's no clear leader, where there's no favorite, and where the general public seems to be still tuned out. Maybe because there's too many candidates. And it's months away of narrowing it down to 2.
Yeah, and I think maybe once you narrow it down to 2, then you don't have so many choices, and people have to pick a horse and decide which path they want to go with based on whatever that candidate stands for. But at the moment, I think you're right. You talk to the average person about, hey, who are you going to vote for governor? And they're like, I don't even know who's running.
Exactly.
And so it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. And I feel like the state is at such a place of disarray in many respects, in terms of runaway costs and in terms of, what is public policy, what is the clear direction.
Right.
That you need somebody that will come in with direction, and it doesn't appear to exist.
California, whether you love it or hate it, is a big part of the economy here in the United States. It drives growth, it drives innovation still, despite all its chaos and need for improvements. It still is an important part of this whole thing, and we've got the biggest race in a generation coming up, and nobody seems to be paying much attention to it here.
I talked to 3 people yesterday. One said, I'm moving to Texas. One said, I'm moving to Colorado. One said, I'm moving to Arizona.
That's the answer.
Right? And then you got Mark Zuckerberg, who moved to Florida, right? And so, it's horrible to hear that. that people don't have faith in the state, or that the cost of living will be any better down the road. And so all you can do is stay tuned, and then all you can do is try and make smart decisions and put your head down and keep taking forward steps.
And listen to this show, because who else is talking about this but us?
I don't know. And either way, we'll be back next week. We will be talking some more real estate. We'll hope we have positive news on the war front, and positive news on the real estate side of things. So I am Barry Saywitz. Thanks for tuning in. Paul, thanks for the conversation.
The bantering back and forth.
And the banter.
I'm as... we're probably more political polar opposites, but we're all concerned. We're all trying to figure out where are we headed and how do we make sense of, for in our own lives, where this is headed and what we should be doing.
So, for all of that, we'll see you back here next week on Let's Talk Real Estate.
Well, there you have it. You've been listening to Let's Talk Real Estate, your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current state of the real commercial real estate market right here in Southern California. On Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio, streaming live from our studio here at the University of California Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.